Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Charlie.
First of all, I want to get started by saying thank you for you guys to be here. I know that, being Saturday morning, some guys wanted to leave kind of early, and so you guys, I really appreciate you guys staying. This is first of all, I'm really humbled to be here. At the same time, I'm very excited about what I'm about ready to present to you guys today, because this is one of the first times that I have done this presentation in a public forum. And so I think you're going to learn a lot, I hope. If not, I'll give you your money back. And so I'm very humbled to be here. And so let's get started. So this presentation I'm going to do today is how we invest in commercial properties. And I probably should have highlighted the we and italicized it. And so I'm going to go through 4 case studies. And so if you guys have ever heard me talk before, this is presentations for you. It's not for me. I already know all this stuff. And if I cover a term or terminology or something that you guys don't understand, please ask me the question then and there, because I want this to be a little bit more interactive. Pros and cons to that is that, I'm probably going to go a little bit longer. I have a lot to cover, but if I don't get to the end, it's okay. It's not a big deal as long as you guys can learn something, because that's the goal here. And so just keep that in mind. That's my background. You guys kind of know who I am. I'm all over social media, unfortunately or fortunately. And so that's why Charlie, raise your hand. He's part of my film crew. So what they do is they'll film me, they'll put it on my, I have a YouTube channel, longs, and then they'll cut up reels. So I don't have to spend time creating these reels, man. I'm not very good at social media. That's my background. Recently, I'm on the advisory board of Freedom Bank of Virginia. So I'm on that board. I do a lot of charitable endeavors, and so if you don't take anything out of this, please, once we get to a certain status in life, give back to the community. I run a charity called, it used to be called Catholics for Housing, now it's called Creating Foundations for Hope, and I'm actually going to cover one of our assets in this presentation, a 60-unit trailer park. I also have another charity called Clear Sky Sports Angels. I donate money to disadvantaged kids to allow them to play sports like lacrosse, hockey, travel soccer, any of those sports where they can't afford to participate. I even have a BMX bike club that we purchase bikes for Hispanic kids and allow them to participate in bike racing. So I don't care about what I've done, just take that from here, please. That's who we are, Clear Sky Group. I have a 6-line business model in the real estate investing world, and it covers both residential and commercial. But where I really cut my teeth was on the residential side. We have fixed and flipped over 450 houses. We built our capital stack, and that capital stack enabled us to create a residential rental portfolio, which is business line number 2. Then business line number 3 is our hard money company. We're an asset-based lender. And so one of the reasons why we have to, or we know commercial assets in and out, is because being an asset-based lender, I have to have the ability to qualify the asset. Don't take it personal, but on the hard money side, I do not qualify the borrower that much. I do qualify them a little bit, but it's all about the asset. Okay, that's business line 3 is the hard money company. Then we own a bunch of commercial assets. And so some of the properties that I'm going to present today, I have addresses, they're real life properties, and you guys can write it down and do some research. So we do have a commercial portfolio. Clear Sky Holdings, we do something called tax lien certificate investing. So I don't know if you guys know what that is, but in Washington, D.C. and Maryland, we're heavy in D.C. Buying these tax lien certificates. If you guys are ever interested, I could do it, or I could have Ed come in and do a presentation on that if you guys are interested in that. I don't know. It's on the Maryland, D.C. side of Virginia. Virginia is called a tax sales state. So if you don't pay your property taxes, it'll take them 3 or 5 years. The jurisdiction will auction off the house. They don't sell tax lien certificates. So that's what Clear Sky Holdings is. And then on the 6th one, we just recently wrote the book, as some of you guys have. And so we do have a coaching and mentoring program. We've launched Clear Sky Education, not really so much as a moneymaker, but just to sort of give back to the investor community. And so that's basically our 6-line business model. And it's all across the real estate investing spectrum. And then once I cut my teeth in the resi space, we transitioned into commercial. And so we're pretty heavy in commercial, because when we lend on these assets, I've had to take some of them back and execute on them. But over time, I was able to acquire other commercial properties via, and I'm going to show you how we did it, how we found them, how we funded them, that kind of thing, right? This is our book that we wrote, The Roadmap to Wealth in Real Estate Investing. And so we start with the education side. Finding distressed assets is our forte. So what I was able to do is I was able to take the resi, how to find distressed assets, and convert it to the commercial world. And like I said, part of what I'm about ready to talk about is how we found these assets. Then as you go along the roadmap, you build up your capital stack, right? Whether you earn commission income, loan income, or for us, investment income. And then what we show people how to do is we teach them how to invest that money in passive income strategies, like maybe being a hard money lender, maybe investing in a pooled mortgage fund, maybe being part of a syndication, maybe building your residential rental portfolio, maybe buying a nice cash performing commercial asset. And so we take you through to the end of the roadmap, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to eliminate the income of our time, and we're trying to create this passive income strategy. And that's at the very end of our roadmap. And so that's really what the book is about. So if you guys are reading it, I hope you're enjoying it. Okay. Who was I talking to yesterday when somebody, I think it was Wayne, right? I don't have that in here, but remember I made the comment and you were telling me about how Jerry, right, couldn't get, all the banks were coming at him and they were getting a loan. And what did I say? I said, well, Bob Hope had a quote, a bank will give you money provided you can prove that you don't need it. Remember that? All right. Well, it's the same thing with commercial assets. It takes a lot of hard work, money, and time to invest, develop, and operate a commercial property. However long you think it will take, and the amount of money you think you're going to spend, go ahead and multiply that by 2 or 3. All right? That's very important for you guys to know, because there's never really been a project where we've been in scope on budget. It's the way it goes. You always have to have your budget contingencies, and it's very important on the development side. So what I'm going to do, so our philosophies when we're buying commercial properties, number 1, buy distressed. That's how we do it. And I'm going to go over 4 scenarios and 4 ways we found it. So we're buying distressed. So there's different ways of doing that. I'll cover that. Add value, right? There's very many ways of adding value. Change zoning, get a special use permit, develop it, take a dilapidated asset, improve it, get it re-rented out, get it performing. And then you got to understand your financing options. And so the various case studies that I'm going to go over, there's different financing options for each one. And I'm actually really looking forward to getting to the trailer park discussion, because that was incredible. Highest and best use, right? We all know about that. And then the most important part of this whole thing, you have to understand your exit. It's all about the dispo, right? Are you going to buy it, improve it, sell it? Are you going to keep it as a commercial asset and manage it? What are you going to do with it? You really have to know what you're going to do with it. We like to know what we're going to do with it before we buy it. But everything that we buy, though, on the commercial side, we have the intent, and the key word is intent, as keeping it as a buy and hold, and we want to manage it. That's us. If I sell it, like for example, though, if I have to foreclose on a 3-acre property that I sent out as a residential loan, it's 3 acres, it's zoned R2, I can put 5 or 6 houses there, probably not 6, but 5. I will take it back, unfortunately, sometimes it happens. I will develop the 5-lot site plan, and I will sell that. And you guys have seen that in MAREMA, because I have presented a variety of weird assets to you guys that we've either developed, that I was trying to sell as a lender, because some of these things, once I get it to site plan approval, sometimes I don't want to develop it because it takes a lot of time for us. And so I'm not a home builder, right? So we know our lane. We know what we can and can't do, and we also know what we're good at. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover 4 properties, and I'll try to go very fast. Car wash, we'll talk about a trailer park, we'll talk about an industrial truck yard. If you need me to move it up, I'll be glad to move it up. I don't have my clock in front of me, but that's okay. And we'll talk about an auto body tire shop. You know about that one. That's the one you know about on, no kidding, 1234 Easy Street. I'm not joking, that's the address. Okay, and so then for each case study, what I'm going to do, and this is kind of what you guys, thanks to Joe for sending out the survey, I'm going to show you guys how we found it. Just as important though, how we evaluated it. The evaluation portion is very, very long sometimes and time consuming. It takes us a minute. We really have got to understand that asset in and out, whether I'm buying it or whether I'm lending on it. And so then I'll take you through a pathway of how we funded it. All the assets we funded 4 different ways so that you guys can see the scenarios, okay? And then we'll talk about development. These are all assets that we've had to develop, right? And then finally, I'll talk about the disposition of those assets and where we are. Number 1, and remember guys, if you guys have any questions throughout this presentation, please feel free to ask. Okay, here's a car wash. So what happened was, we had fixed and flipped a lot of houses and we had built a pretty good capital stack back in 2007s and 8s, something like that, 9. And what happened was we were looking for something to buy and own and hold. And so what we were doing, we were thinking about, okay, but it had to be real estate specific. I had to own the real estate, the underlying real estate. We kind of talked about this yesterday, right? And so in this particular case, we were either looking for either a self-storage or a car wash, or even an industrial property for a truck yard. Didn't know it at the time, but we were interested in those kinds of asset classes. So what we did is we actually searched 6 months to find a property, and we were looking at all of the outer areas of Virginia. We started in Northern Virginia, but as you guys know, self-storage, car wash, any of these things, the land is really, really expensive. It's not gonna really cash flow because not only is the land expensive, your development costs are expensive, and you're spending so much money that once you own the asset, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so then our search took us down to Chesapeake, Virginia. Okay, I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was, and I gotta caveat this because this no longer exists. Dominion Boulevard and Great Bridge Boulevard in Chesapeake, Virginia, we found a distressed owner who was selling an outlot, for sale by owner outlot in a Food Lion shopping center, right? It's one of those out parcels. It was next to a Burger King, it had a Valero, it had a BP gas station, a 7-Eleven, all that stuff. So it had very good car counts, right? Not only did it have good car counts, but it was in a shopping center on an outlot with an anchor. As a matter of fact, our priority to begin with on the search was to look for something where there was a Walmart. We really wanted an outlot by a Walmart. That's really what we wanted, but we didn't find it. So we settled for a high-performing Food Lion. So we ended up buying that piece of property. Well, first of all, what we did is we got it under contract. We got it under contract. It was zoned either B1 or B2. I don't remember. It was the correct zoning, but the problem was I needed this thing called a special use permit, right, to get this thing through. And remember, we weren't part of the niche community of Chesapeake, Virginia. As a matter of fact, we knew nobody, right? So one of the things that we had to do was obviously build our team down there, engineer, architect, but more importantly, we had to hire a law firm that was well connected to the city council. The city council had 9 people on it, right? Because when you do the special use permit, you're gonna need to get a vote from the city council. They had 9, I needed 5-4. So what we did is we hired the law firm to sort of get this thing through. Now remember, I have the land under contract for $300,000, but contingent on site use, right, SUP. And so we really hadn't closed on anything yet. I really hadn't spent much money on the actual asset, but we spent a couple $100,000 getting it through the engineering, architect, and all that stuff, getting that site plan done, and then submitting it for review. Of course, you had to have public hearings and all that stuff. And we thought from our law firm that it was going to be a slam dunk, right? No, it was not a slam dunk. Unfortunately, one of the guys in our jurisdiction didn't want the car wash. I don't know why. I think he might have been waiting for us to pay him off. So then what happened was, remember, we had spent like almost $250,000 getting the site plan approved. It finally gets to the night of the vote. We show up, right, with our attorney, going through the vote. Vote, 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 vote. Because you know how when they vote in unison, right? Boom, 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 boom. It's not at the same time. So at the very end, it gets to be 4-4. Had to be a tiebreaker. Luckily for us, the tie-breaking vote knew the law firm very, very well. And so it kicked to our side, 5-4. Now, think about that, right? We have $250,000 riding on this because we already spent it. That vote either made us money or cost us money, right? And so luckily for us, they did it. So now what happens is, I've got a $300,000 contract that now we got to buy it, but now I've created a special use permit site plan of a car wash. Now my value of that land went through the roof, right? Now instead of at 300, I'm buying it for 200. Now that site is probably worth about $1 million. So I'm like, Sam, let's sell it. No, we're buying it for a car wash. We want to keep this as a long-term hold. Somebody asked me the other day, do you guys ever argue? I think it was you. This was one of the time. I'm like, no, let's sell it, man. Let's just make the quick $500,000, man. We don't live in Chesapeake. You know, we're gonna have to manage this thing and do this and do that. And he said, no, let's keep it. Yeah, I said, all right, let's do it. I love it. We're in this for the long term. We were younger at the time. So then what we had to do, we knew the development cost was about $1.5 million or something like that. And so what we did though, is I had to raise equity money. So we created an LLC. So we had two different LLCs. We had one that was a holding company that owned the real estate. And then we had the other LLC that was going to operate the car wash. Okay. And so we owned both of those. But remember guys, we owned the real estate. And this is very important because you guys are going to realize what happened on the disposition side. And so then what happened was, so I raised $400,000, 5%. We gave the investors, it was an LLC. So we gave the investors 5% ownership in the operating and the holding company. So now we had $400,000. Remember, we'd already spent $250 on the site plan. Now we're buying it for $300. So now we own everything, right, with an extra $100,000 in the bank. Then what we did is we took that, and this is actually the pictures of it as it's getting built. That's the final product, and that's sort of us. Look how young we look here. And so, but this is one of the things I wanted to teach you guys about. And so this is what it looks like, okay? So then what happened so we talked about some of this stuff on how we found it. Virginia-based, land expensive, too expensive in Northern Virginia, distressed asset, outlet, all these kinds of different things. Oh, it was 0.36 acres, but it was close to everything. So we sort of covered that. So then what I did, we had to evaluate it, right? So before we did all this, we were evaluating this site from a numbers standpoint. Correct zoning, shopping center with a good anchor, outlot traffic counts, pro forma models, development costs, financing stages. We didn't go into this willy-nilly. We knew what we were doing because one of the things that was very, very important for us is we did this car count, right? So we did a car count on both streets. One was 18,000, one was 28,000. Now this is per day, all right? So then what we did is we had a capture rate that we knew from car washes, like which cars would stop, what percentage and when. And so we got about 63 plus about 20, so we had about 83, all right? That's very, very important because the 83 actually drove our pro forma on the feasibility and how much cash flow we would put off in this car wash. And so let me go over here and explain to you guys sort of what we did. So we had 2-bay automatic. So I had a beater, like one of those, right? And then I had a touch-free. So we had 2-bay automatic, right? So then we had to price it. We had to figure out what were the prices of the car wash. And so $8, $12, $16 was our various range at the time. And so we figured, okay, an average of $13.50 per car wash. I think we did like a 100 count to make it simpler for the pro forma. And then we just put together a pro forma to see what our profit was before debt. Car washes are very simple to own and operate, except when you're dealing with a water-based business, you're gonna have some mechanical troubles. Right, so we had to have a manager, we had to have a guy that could fix everything, and luckily for us, we hired a manager and a couple of employees. But remember, I don't even know if we calculated the maintenance the right way. Hell, I don't even see it on here. We're terrible. Yeah, repairs, there you go. Yeah, repairs, building maintenance. Oh shit, this is so low. 181 a month, fake. Repairs, 520 a month, fake. It's a lot more than that. So we underestimated that expense, okay? But everything else was sort of pretty on cue. But either way, it didn't matter because we were projecting a $28,000 NOI before debt. And as you bankers like, you like that kind of stuff, right? So then what we did, and this is very important for you to realize, is that any kind of asset that I buy, commercial standpoint, I mean, obviously we're gonna do the 5-year pro forma and all the stuff that the banks wanna see, but I don't really care about this yet. I care about that. And you're gonna see on all these different slides that I do, I only care about the monthly pro forma. I wanna know what the month looks like. And I get it, right? It's cyclical. I get it. But I just want an average month because I wanna be able to tell if it's gonna stand on its feet. If it's gonna stand on its feet, okay, right? No big deal.
Where'd you go to get your car data?
Well, that's a good question. One of the things that we did, we hired a car wash consultant.
I would like that.
His name was Lou. Lou was the car wash consultant. So what Lou helped us do is once he knew we were coming down to the Virginia Beach, Chesapeake area, we hired him. And so what Lou did for us is he picked out our equipment. He's the one that helped us with the car counts. He's the one that told us the pricing of the car washes because we had two bay automatics. And so we had ATM machines to collect the money. And then we had 6 vacuums. And those were all linked to the internet and they were able to collect money. So we didn't really have to deal with the money at all, right? It was all automated. And so Lou helped us out. As a matter of fact, I think Lou is actually, you see this big guy right here in the middle? That's Lou. That's Lou. So that was our car wash consultant. And he took us through the entire process and we created our own brand. I didn't put the logo in here. It was Clear Sky Car Wash. I had a nice, you guys remember Herbie the Love Bug?
Yes.
All right, so our logo was, I should have put it in here. Our logo was Herbie the Love Bug, but where the wheels were, we had like washing like sponges. And it was very colorful. And Sam knows, he thinks I'm silly, but I love these cartoonish logos. And so I should have stuck it in here because you really can't tell from the picture what the logo looks like. But yeah, that's what happened. So that's a good question. So Lou helped us out with a lot of the stuff. But remember though, I had to get to that cash flow analysis on a monthly basis to see if it was worth our time.
Real quick, would it be easier if you went for the franchise to get around all the analysis or
Yeah, it might have been. It might have been. We thought about
building
that.
stuff, the drawing, and
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah. It probably would have been a lot easier looking back on
you
it.
think it might have been cheaper or not?
No, it definitely wouldn't have been cheaper. Because the other thing that Lou helped us with was not only about the construction company, picking out the construction who's going to develop it, and we had different bids, and also too, more importantly though, the equipment. We had to make sure that we picked out equipment that was going to last.
So the reason I'm asking is because, for example, you guys never done car washing, so it's like you never in a car wash business. So you don't know what the number, you're learning as you go.
That's right.
You know, that's what I'm saying. It might have been.
Well, no, that's a good question because one of the things, and this hence was the discussion.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it an argument. This was why we know we do what we do. Once that site plan was approved with the SUP, that's where we really created the value in the real estate. That's why I wanted to sell that site plan. And I just want to take that $500,000 and put it in my pocket and go somewhere else. But Sam wanted to keep it, so we ended up keeping it and we ended up operating it. And so that's what we'll do is so everything all in was about $2.2 million, including the $300,000 land purchase, the $250 that we had to do for site plan development and all the development. So we were in there for about $2.2 million. And of course, we're personally guaranteeing all this stuff. Now let's talk about the funding. Well, I already told you that we had raised the 400 grand. We had put the 250 out of our pocket to do all the work, right? So now we have a great asset that's worth roughly $1 million with no debt on it. Remember, I told you I raised the 400. So we had created the value, and because of the pro formas and everything, at that point in time, we went to a bank to get the rest of the financing for the development. And so at that time, we did, you guys know, I know you could know, you guys know what a participation loan is? So we were very good credit clients, right? We had pretty good balance sheet at the time. And so what happened was we did what's called a participation loan with 3 credit unions. Apple Federal, where you at, Apple? You here? Mr. Apple? Paul here? Man, I'm shouting you out, Paul, where you at? He was here. Apple Federal, Lafayette Federal, and I forget the 3rd credit union. So they all gave us a loan for $1.7 million. Okay, and that was for the development, right? That was also working capital to get this thing operational. And so that's how we funded it. Okay, remember, all cash, we created the equity of the land, used that SUP to get that big loan. All right?
I'm confused. Why did you have to use 3 banks?
Because they didn't want it, they just wanted to split it up, 500, 500, 500. Yeah, nobody wanted to take the whole thing on. The other reason is remember, these Apple Federal, Lafayette, and I forgot the other credit union, they were all local to Northern Virginia. They had never really done a deal in Chesapeake. Not only that, but we probably weren't the most experienced borrowers, like you were saying earlier, from operating a car wash. Now, I had business experience before, owned some video stores and owned some other things. But from a car wash, yeah, we probably weren't the best. But we had everything pretty much ironed out. It was pretty good, actually, the operation. Okay, so there you go. So let's talk about the development a little bit. Oh, there it is. It's there. Hired a car wash consultant. I thought it was in here. Develop the site plan, we talked about that. VDOT approvals, site constraints due to VDOT, equipment selection, developer interview quotes, site work, occupancy approvals, and grand opening. Now, one of the things I got explained to you guys about the VDOT approvals was very important. We knew about the studies to develop a steel road bridge project. So if you guys know where Outer Banks Expressway starts, going to the Outer Banks, we were right there. That's where the site was, on the other side of that hill. And so we knew there was going to be a steel bridge project. So picture the lot as a square. So they wouldn't let us develop on the exterior edges of the lot because they knew that the steel bridge project was coming down the road. Right? So we went from like, I don't know, it was like a 0.7, 0.9 acre. So I could only use maybe 0.6 of it to actually develop on. So we squeezed it. We had to squeeze it. No problem. We did it. However, there was a problem later on. I'm going to bring that up. So keep that in mind. Disposition. We talked about it, right? Hell, I wanted to sell the site plan, $1 million bucks. I want to put $500,000 in my pocket because let's move on, man. It didn't happen. And so we talked about the operating company, the holding company. And so when you do this kind of thing, you've got to own the real estate. You know, I'll get into that in a minute. We operated it only for about 18 months. It was great. Everything was automated. We had 16 cameras on that thing. We were able to look at the 16 cameras every day. So from Northern Virginia, we're keeping an eye on our business. All the reporting of the business was coming out of the automated machines, so we knew the income. You know, we had this thing on automated. Now I needed a manager to run it just in case things broke down. So he was more of a manager, fixer kind of guy. We were very fortunate with that key hire, and he hired a couple of people to keep the site clean and to talk to customers and customer interfacing kinds of things. And so then what happened was, guess what? The steel bridge project where they wouldn't let us develop because they thought they were going to do turn lanes. It became a full taking. Became a full eminent domain taking. Brand new car wash. We ran it for 18 months. So then what happened is that the government had their appraisal. We had our appraisal, which shockingly enough was way higher than the government's appraiser, right? So we tried to negotiate it out before they did the eminent domain taking. They didn't agree with us. We didn't agree with them. So what they did is they did a title search. And so if anybody gets into an eminent domain problem, come call me. I'll tell you what to do, because we didn't do it right. So what they did is they went, pulled a title, and they made, hey, I gave you a shout out and you were gone, Apple Federal. Come on, brother. All right. So what they did was rolled us out a low ball, wouldn't agree to negotiate with us, right? Because they think they're the big government. They're the big government. I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of you. We're like, oh, hell no, we got our own appraisal. Matter of fact, we've got two of them. We're going to fight you tooth and nail. So then they came, 6 months later, they came and bulldozed the site, gave us our offer of just the debt, right? The first trust with that 1.7, I think I might have put a second trust on there because we needed some more cash. So that's what they did. And so our appraisal was about $2 million more than theirs. So it took us 2.5 years to fight an eminent domain lawsuit, and we were in every single court, federal, district, circuit, we were everywhere, fighting their ass, excuse my French. And so eventually, we were going to get to the final court date, and we were going to have a jury trial, right? So back and forth, you know how lawyers go, Mr. Lawyer. As you get closer and closer to a lawsuit actually going to court, then people start negotiating a settlement. So we started, and you guys are going to like this story. So we started negotiating a settlement. Guess what one of the things that we did was? We wanted to look at the juror list, the potential juror list, right? And we saw the backgrounds of the jurors. And we were like, uh-oh. We've got normal people on a jury. They're all from Chesapeake. We're these two business developers from Fairfax County. They think we have a lot of money. We're trying to infiltrate their space. What are the odds that we're going to get these normal folks to vote for us? And so we were a little bit worried about the juror selection because none of these guys really are business owners. They're really not, we don't even know if they own real estate. And so we were a little worried about the jury. And so eventually, though, we went back and forth. And as a matter of fact, it was Labor Day when we were negotiating this whole settlement because trial was the next day and Tuesday. We were down in Chesapeake. And so we eventually agreed, came to terms, and we agreed for a $1.35 million settlement on that property. But that took us 2.5 years. So let's go back to the disposition. Would you have rather had a profit of $500,000, not spend your time running a business for 18 months, getting eminent domain another 2.5 years, or would you rather have a $1.35 million settlement? Whatever. I know my answer would have been.
You learned a lot from it.
I learned a lot. Yeah. And so then we did what's called a 1033 eminent domain exchange. So we took the profits out of that and we converted it into other real estate assets that we hold to this day tax-free, right? So we did a tax-free exchange. That's the car wash. All right. Now, next thing I'll talk about is.
Before you move into that, how was the bank's reaction during that trial process?
No. Remember. That's a great question. The car wash was eminent domain. It was taken. The $2 million was transferred and it paid off all of our debt. So while we were going through the lawsuit, right, the eminent domain lawsuit, we technically owned this real estate outright because all of our debt was gone. The title was cleared up.
So they didn't take the land?
They did. They took it and bulldozed it while we were going through the trials. It was gone. Nothing we can do about it. It's eminent domain. We have no rights.
So it's crazy because I think I was living in Chesapeake when all that was going down. I remember the car wash being built and then
Were you one of my clients?
I work then now, probably not. So, but it was, I remember when it was built, it was really cute. Like, and the logo was really.
I wish I had the logo. I should have put it in here. I've got so many slides. But yeah, no, it was, like you said, yeah, we learned a lot. And let me tell you one of the lessons I would tell you guys, and you're going to laugh. Because they were lazy and they did the title search and they looked at the encumbrances, because I've never done this before, next time I do this, if I ever get eminent domain, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to go and we're going to open up a LLC or a corp in Nevada.
Put a big old lien on it.
We're going to put a big old lien on it. Yep, we're going to put a big old lien on it. So that when you want to come with your little straw man offer, Mr. Government, you're going to see that big old lien. And guess what? You're not going to be able to tell who owns that. There you go. And that's exactly what we're going to do next, if it ever happens again. It might. I mean, I've got a property next to Manassas Airport that we'll cover here in a second, that they might, you never know, they're expanding, they're not expanding the runway, but they're letting these big 128 passenger jets land. So my lot is literally in the landing zone. I'll cover that in a second. And so we might get eminent domain again. Yeah, you're damn right. So when you see a $5 million third or second deed of trust on top of my property with some company in Vegas, yeah, or in Nevada, yeah, you laugh, right? Guys laugh.
Hey, Charlie.
Let's go.
As far as the government and their, they had their appraisal. I worked on two in Stevens City, okay? There's an attorney out of Richmond who does.
We know him. We interviewed him.
Right.
Waldo.
That's right.
We know Waldo.
All right. So I was called in twice in Stevens City. First was the Food Lion Shopping Center. They widened the roads there. That started it, okay?
Yep.
And they came back and got $1.2 million more than what they were given by VDOT. And then Clater, okay, who owned the convenience store on the corner right at the interchange, okay, they came back and took a piece of his land where you couldn't even get. You used to get a lot of diesel trucks and trailers from mobile homes, trailers going by. You couldn't even get, you see all the black marks where they narrowed the entrance. It was awful. And we ended up, he got 900,000. So, I mean, does eminent domain, does VDOT come in purposely low? Sure. And then thinking that, that they're not.
Yeah, because with their.
Don't they have to have a legal,
No, and unfortunately for us, right, here's their philosophy, and it sucks, I'll be honest. And you hit the right word, it's awful. Their philosophy is boom, 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 boom. I'm the big girl on the block. You're a little tiny investor, right? I'm talking about people that own residential real estate where the house is worth way less. You, as a little guy, you don't have the resources to fight me, right? And we were like, just the opposite. We're gonna fight you. As a matter of fact, we're gonna fight you all the way to the end, and we are also gonna create a federal lawsuit because I want it in the federal courts, because VDOT, I want in the state courts, and remember, eminent domain law is what? And sometimes it's federal. There's some federal statutes as well. So we want federal, we want circuit, we want district, and we want state. And guess what? If you're going to rule against me, what am I going to do? I'm going to appeal. Because not only do we have money, but we're going to fight you all the way to the ground until you settle with us. Because that's all we ever wanted. And we made it clear from day one, but that's their philosophy. They're the big gorilla. You don't have the resources. That's why the supposed best eminent domain attorney in Virginia is Waldo. But we were worried Waldo was going to charge 35%. Okay, whatever, that's what it costs. But we were worried that Waldo had so many cases that he wasn't going to focus on our stuff. And if you know, and you're dealing with me, and you're an attorney or whatever, if you're not going to focus on our stuff, no, don't be offended, we're rolling out. And so we were fortunate that we had Ed, you know Ed, right, Kayvon?
Oh, yeah.
Wheelchair Ed, Ed's a mean-ass lawyer.
Yeah.
He's a insurance guy. He didn't know anything about eminent domain, but let me tell you something. He learned about eminent domain. So instead of paying an attorney the 33%, we just enabled him to be a one-third partner of the eminent domain profit, so we built a holding company around that. There you go? Yeah? All right. All right, next one, trailer park. This is my favorite one that's near and dear to my heart because this is an asset that we still own today. And when I say we, it's owned in my charity, Catholic for Housing's Creating Foundations for Hope. And what you have to understand, I'll give you a little bit of background going into it. This charity was bankrupt. We owned a lot of real estate, and we rented out this real estate to low-income folks. If you guys know anything about low-income folks and owning real estate, they don't cash flow very well, right? So we were running budget deficits every single month. We were having to rely on grants, donations, all kinds of stuff just to keep that charity afloat. So I got on the board, and so I never knew why I was on the board because this guy by the name of Father Creedon got me to be on the board because at my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, they did it in my clubhouse. I didn't even know who he was. He pulled me aside because my dad was a deacon. My dad told this guy everything that I did, and so he's like, oh, I started this charity in affordable housing. They have all these real estate assets, but they have nobody knows what they're doing on the board. You didn't even ask. You are going to join the board. Huh. I said, no, I'm not a board guy. I don't like meetings. And if I know what I'm talking about and someone doesn't, I'm not going to be very nice. I don't want it. Because usually what I say goes, right, with Sam. And so I'm used to that kind of mentality because that's how we run our businesses. So then I ended up joining the board. I was there for a couple of years, and I had no idea why the hell I was on the board, but I'm learning all their assets, you know, what the balance sheet looked like, what the income statement looked like, because being a charity, they weren't very organized. Hell, they didn't even have a mark-to-market balance sheet. They didn't have anything. So then what happened was, and this is another way of how we found it, is that there was this trailer park in Manassas. I don't know if you guys remember this, East End Mobile Home Park in Manassas. The owner was a lawyer running a trust. Nothing against lawyers, but do you think lawyers know how to run businesses or run real estate, or are they property managers? No, they're not. This girl, Loretta Clark, had autism. Her parents had owned this trailer park since inception, since the 1960s. They died, they left it to Loretta in the trust. She was autistic, right? So what happened is that the trailer park became dilapidated. It literally had feces coming out of the sewer pipes. Water systems were terrible, pipes were leaking. They had one big pipe coming to the trailer park, and that bill was paid by the owner. That bill was about $11,000, $12,000 a month. The tenants were paying, and this is actually true, the tenants were paying anywhere from $300 to $600 a month. The folks that were paying the $300 were non-Hispanic. The folks that were paying the $600 were Hispanic. So I had to get a civil rights attorney involved as well. So then what happened was the city of Manassas wanted to build a Manassas town center on this 6 or 7 acres. So they came in and made the offer. So they have an outstanding offer to the owner for $1.3 million. They're gonna close the park and remove 50 families, and they're gonna have to relocate them. Okay. So then what happened is all these, and everybody knew that I was part of this charity, right? So they come to me, right? They come to me and they go, there was a charity called Voice. Voice was, during the pre-foreclosure crisis in Prince William County, Voice was a charity that was all denominations, all these different priests, Catholic Church, Lutheran Church, Jewish, Baptist Church, all these guys came together, created this charity called Voice. Well, one of the members of Voice knew about me and my background, And so they came to me and they said, hey, this trailer park is going to be closed. City of Manassas is going to condemn it. I need you to help relocate 50 people, find them new homes. Guys, this is a low-income community. Where the heck am I going to find 50 people housing $500 a month in rent? Doesn't exist, right? So then what happened was I got a little bit more feedback on the parking details, right? I understood the deal on both sides. And remember though, I have a charity that is having a monthly deficit of $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Do you think we have money in the bank? We have no money in the bank. We don't need, excuse my French, we don't even have a pot to piss in, right? But I'm on the board, and my buddy Dan Woodward's on the board, who runs a general construction company, and I'll kind of put this thing together in a second. So we were going to have to relocate 49 families with 120 kids. That was impossible. So then I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, why don't we own the park? Right? And you guys are probably looking at me like, well, how are you going to own the park when you don't have any money? I'm going to get into that. I'll skip right over to it. Trailer park losing money because of singular water bill and low rents, water bill over $10,000 a month. All right. Then what happened was the tenants didn't want to relocate. So what they did is, Mr. Lawyers, they filed an assertion hearing. So they had an assertion hearing going for like 5 to 6 months because they didn't want to leave their homes. So they were putting in money every month because of the dilapidated conditions. They weren't paying the money directly to the landlord. They were paying money to the court system, Prince William County. So over about 6 months in time, they had built up the coffers in the court to $250,000. Okay. Then what happened was, fortunately for me, the lawyer, his name was Tim Cope. He was running the trust. But when you're a lawyer running the trust and you're in litigation, you have to hire another lawyer. That's where John Foote came in. Well, John Foote worked for a land use law firm where one of the land use law firm guys, Mark Getzman, was on our board. Now you guys see where this is going? One of the lawyers, John Foote, had the lawyer on our board, Mark Getzman, same law firm. They knew us really, really well from a charity standpoint. They knew exactly what we were doing. So then what I did is I got together a meeting with John Foote, Tim Cope, and a couple of our board members. Oh, by the way, my board members didn't want it. I was the only one that wanted it because I knew I could turn this around. Father Creedon, the guy that got me on the board, was the only one on my side because the board was like, I didn't want any bad publicity, right? Because if you own a mobile park, they're trashy. And remember, this park was all over the news. So I got myself right in the middle of a media firestorm, right? And so then what happened was I used my influence on Father Creedon to say, hey, I can do this. This is gonna work, right? So we met with them, talked about Loretta Clark, talked about her monthly needs. That's how I started the conversation. I was like, John, Tim, what does she need every month? Guess what they said? They said the magic word. She needs $10,000 a month to live. That's all she needs. I said, okay, no problem. Kept that in the back of my head, right? So then, that's the picture of it. So, and matter of fact, that's Father Ramon. Father Creedon unfortunately died about 6, 7 years ago, right when we were taking over the park. But that's a picture of the park today. It's really nice. You can see the new roads, see the playground we put in. No, she didn't do the community center. Oh yeah, community center's over here on the right. And I got another story about that here in a second. So then what I had to do, right, finding it, right, basically word of mouth, wanted nonprofit to find homes for 49 families, impossible, I knew that. So I had to talk to one of the city, Manassas, their council, city manager, city attorneys, right? I had to talk to the council to see if they were gonna vote us in. It took me a while. I had to meet with them 2 at a time. I couldn't meet with them more than 2 at a time because that would be called a meeting. And so I talked to Mayor Parrish at the time. I had some people that I knew on the council, so luckily for that. But there was an owner lawyer representing the trust, that was Tim Cope. So, okay, so now let's talk about it, right? What did I have to do, right? Affordability, needed to raise rents, current pro forma, future pro forma with rent raise, development costs, sewer pipes, water system, storm water management, roads. Then we had to go with financing options, right? Okay, you guys are familiar with this, right? So then what I did is I said, okay, I got 51 units that are paying $650 a month. Actually, it was 49. And they were paying that into the court system, but they weren't paying it at $650. They were paying it at their rents, right? But then I had to put together, and you're going to see it, I had to put together a monthly pro forma. I had to understand what this thing could handle. And, oh, by the way, I already knew that $650 was going to be the rents for the assertion people. So we treated the assertion folks better than we did the non-assertion folks from a rent standpoint. Okay, so then what I did is I put a mock-up monthly pro forma together. Not a pro forma, but just a cash flow. I want to see what it looked like. All right, well, trailer parks, if you guys know, once you do the development costs, are very easy to run. So my operating income, after all the development, was going to be about $33,000 a month, right? That was what was coming out of this thing from a cash flow standpoint. Once I executed on this, great. Then what I did is I said, okay, well, what debt service can it afford? Well, remember, how much did Loretta Clark need a month? 10,000, right? So what did I do? I said, Mr. Coe, would you let me buy it and hold owner-held financing? And I will pay you $10,000 a month, and I will create an owner-held financing deed of trust against that property at like 3.25%, 25-year AM. Will you do that for me? What was his answer? Yeah, hell yeah. 1.35 million purchase. Owner-held financing at 10,000 bucks a month. Step one, boom. Then I had the problem of, oh shit, now I have a nonprofit that has no money. How am I gonna get this development done? Well, Voice, there was a foreclosure crisis in Prince William County. Voice was awarded $3 million from a couple of banks. Jamie Dimon, they had Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and I forgot the third bank, GE Capital. So they were getting $3 million they had in their coffers to help people like this. I knew that. But more importantly, I had a guy on the board, and this is sort of what we penciled out in another 5-year pro forma. So we had a guy on the board, Woodward Construction. He owned a development company, commercial development company. I said, Dan, so will you do the development for me and you sit on there as a second trust? What do you say? What do you say? I'm kicking off $33,000 in cash a month when I raise these rents. So what do you think he said? Because I could afford more than that, but $7,600 a month, pay off the second trust every month. He said yes. That was the biggest yes than buying an owner-held financing. So then what happened was, we agreed. It took us 2 years to close the deal because the city of Manassas had their attorneys. They had to vote us in through the city council. They didn't think a charity like us can manage and run a trailer park. And I was in and out of these damn city council meetings, really telling them what I can and can't do, trying to sell myself to a bunch of government wonks. I felt like I didn't feel very good doing that. But I had to beat them up. And so that's what happened. So Dan said yes. Then what happened was, remember I told you about the $3 million pot? Voice found out the fact that we were going to buy a trailer park, and they were media hogs. So what they did is they came to me and said, we're going to go ahead and put a second trust on the property for you. And I was like, cool, because now I can clean up Dan. I can clean him up. So that's exactly how that worked. So Dan did the work. I had a second trust in place, right? And so they were the media hogs. I didn't give one iota because I didn't care. You can be in the damn media. You can tell everybody how you spent $1.5 million of that $3 million. The problem was it was grant money, but they're charging me interest on it. So I was furious, but I didn't care. It was a low interest, second trust. I got my money, so it wasn't a big deal. Then we put together a 5-year pro forma, okay? And so here's another thing that you guys have to understand. Now, based upon the net operating income, I had to go down through a pro forma because now I want to know, what is this trailer park worth performing? And I didn't pull it down far enough. So at the time, it wasn't trailer park ownership with lot rents, wasn't a preferred asset class. So even at a 6.75 cap with that NOI, hell, that thing is worth $6 million, right? At the time, I knew that. Here's what else we did with the development. Remember I was telling you about the $10,000 a month water bill? Well, part of the development was, I was like, hey, City of Manassas, we're gonna put in all the infrastructure, sewer, water. Do you mind if we meter the trailers, have those tenants pay their own sewer and water bill, do you mind, right? And they were like, yeah, we'll put in the infrastructure. You guys just handle the maintenance of the pipes. Plus, you're now able to collect another sewer and water bill from, at the time, it was going to be 60 people, right? They were excited about that, so they agreed. Guess what that did to my valuation? Through the roof, right? Because now I took that big water pipe, we divided it up, they're all metered. Now the city of Manassas owns that infrastructure. I don't have to touch that stuff again, okay? Now my $10,000 a month water bill, trickle, 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 $100 a month. Helped the NOI tremendously, right? Okay, so then what I didn't show you here is now because the lot rent model of a trailer park, remember, we don't own any of the trailers. It's a lot rent model, plus the infrastructure's brand new, right? Plus I did have a community center, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I could have rented that out. But part of the deal also though, remember, we had that assertion money sitting with the courts. So I went through a round where, and the tenants were organized. They were organized. And so they had their representative, right? A different lawyer, John Francis, who was doing the assertion. But they had all this money sitting with the court. Part of my process was to not only get them to agree to increase the rents to a manageable 5-year rent control at $650, but I also got them to agree to turn over $300,000 to my charity so that we could use that as cash. Okay? Brilliant, right? But the reason why I'm talking about this is because of the lot rent model, because of the new infrastructure, because of the city of Manassas owning the pipes, these trailer parks became what's called a preferred asset class. So now, and this is why I was asking LoopNet the question yesterday, now these trailer parks of 50 units or more lot rent models trade at a 4.5 cap. So now today, so we kept the rents current for $500 or $650. The non-assertion people, we charged them $700, $750, whatever the number was. But we kept the rents, right? We had to give and take when we were negotiating with the tenants. We created tenant rules, right? And we had to negotiate with the tenants the new rents. Let me ask you guys a question. If I have a trailer that I own, and I'm gonna get kicked out of my house, and I'm gonna get removed, I have to go find another place, do you think you would pay $650 a month on rent? Yeah, that was easy. So we did a rent control for 5 years. And that's how we got the park.
What was the previous rent?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier, is that the rents were between $300 to $600. The non-Hispanics were paying $300. The Hispanics were paying $600. So they hired a lawyer, another lawyer that was involved. His name was Victor Glassberg. He was a lawyer who was threatening to file a federal lawsuit against the city of Manassas and Tim Cope and all those lawyers for civil rights violations. We had approved. So that was another one of my bargaining chips to kick the crap out of the city of Manassas. Because remember, the city of Manassas didn't want this. They wanted to build a Manassas town center. So the city of Manassas was fighting us tooth and nail. So because of Victor Glassberg and the fact that we could provide proof civil rights violations, what do you think they did? Oh, they rolled over like a sleeping baby. Okay. And so that's basically, I sort of talked about this. Funding was the first trust, owner held financing for 10 grand a month. I got a second trust. There was a developer, the general contract was on our board. He did all of the work, hired an engineer architect for all the new systems. We finally got the city of Manassas to agree to the self-metered trails, own the infrastructure, the disposition. Do I have a spreadsheet on here? No, okay. We still own this trailer park to this day. The community center that I could have rented out, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, it is now a community center. It is now a food pantry, right? Because remember, this is a nonprofit. We have other motives, even though this trailer park is carrying the organization to a tune of a cash flow of about $20,000 to $25,000 a month after debt service. It rescued the charity. Now we give food to 450 families a month. We now have a mobile food truck. That trailer park is thriving. Yeah, the residents are thriving. We've got kids that have grown up. We've had it for about 8 or 9 years. I go to every single Christmas party. I've known some of these kids since they were 6 years old. We have a nurse that got, he's now becoming he's a young kid that graduated. He's getting his nursing certificate. When we bought the park, he was 12 years old. And we interviewed him back at the time. He was so happy that we came in and owned the trailer park because that put a sense of stability in his life. And so we've got a lot of good stories like that that come out of this park. And so basically that's what it is. So now our rents have increased because now the 5-year moratorium is over for the rent control. So now we're getting between $750 to $800 a month. I'm sitting on 3 offers between $10 and $12 million to buy the park. And it's worth more than that. I get calls all the time for it because now it's a preferred asset class. But that's basically what it is. All right.
This is the one behind the car dealership, right?
Yeah, Dash Ring, the yellow building.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was all over the news. All over the news. And I got myself caught in the middle of the media firestorm, but I didn't really care because I knew with my background experience and this and that I was going to be able to make this work. I just had to get everybody to believe it. City of Manassas didn't want it. So I had to fight those guys. But I had connections, so it helped. Okay, I'm going to quickly cover this. This is my baby. It's a truck yard, 3-acre lot, industrial, heavy industrial by the Manassas Airport. As the planes land, we have a 30-foot height restriction by the FAA. It's zoned highest industrial use, outdoor storage. So we've created it into what's called a truck yard. And just how did we find out about it? Well, my buddy came to me and he wanted us to participate in the deal. But I'm like, all right, Bill Quinn. I'm like, all right, Bill, we'll go ahead and give you a hard money loan for it. What are you buying it for? How much money do you need? He's like, no, I don't want a loan. I want to raise equity. I don't want your hard money loan because you charge too much interest. You charge too much points. He wants us to raise the equity. So I said, okay, buying it for $1.35 million. He wasn't bankable, okay? He hadn't filed his tax returns in 4 or 5 years. So we're like, okay, Bill, not only are we gonna come and give you the $450,000 as a down payment, we are gonna go sign on a loan with our personally guarantee it to get the loan from John Marshall Bank, Community Bank. He said, okay. I said, okay, Bill, we're going to give you 33% finder's fee. We're going to keep the 67%, me and Sam. He said, okay, and that's how we ended up buying it. Okay, now, the next day that we closed, and I'll show you a picture of it here, that's kind of what it looks like today, and that's sort of the parking lot configuration, right? So we've got all kinds of different spaces. The big ones are the 70-footers for the semi-tractor trucks. The 162s, these are the smaller spaces. I've got a couple corners we can rent out. And so, but at the very beginning though, we were lucky because the next day we closed, we got a tenant in there for $30,000 a month because Micron, you guys know Micron down the street? They were expanding and they were building their air conditioned systems. And if you guys know anything about these air conditioned systems, they're very, very expensive because they're clean rooms, right? Because they're doing semiconductor manufacturing, so they're expanding. Well, this company from Texas needed a 3-acre lot to store all their air conditioning equipment. So the day that we closed, $30,000 a month, pow, right? So then, but nobody approved it, right? The city of Manassas didn't say nothing to us. We just moved that tenant in there and didn't give one crap what they said. Well, like if you guys find out, no big deal. Keep receiving our 30 grand. But at the same time though, we had to get a site plan approval because we had a by right use. So we had to get a site plan approval for our truck yard. So that took us a minute to get it because we had 10% would have to be tree canopies. They had a lot of requirements for us. We had to have storm management. You know, we had to have the normal things that you do in a development. So then 2 years goes by. We finally get our site plan approved. Well, that tenant moved out. And so at the beginning, again, that asset was a distressed asset as well. One of these word of mouth deals. And that's how Bill Quinn found it, was a word of mouth deal. And so, that finder helped us find it, right? Evaluation, same kind of thing. That was the this is important because this was our very beginning diagram when we were building our cash model. Remember, these things are parallel, right? So now we're building the cash model based upon his diagram, right? We had these tractor trailer spaces. We had the smaller spaces up top. These were 30 feet spaces. These were 70-foot spaces, but I also had a corner, right, for smaller. I condensed the 10% tree canopy, right? So this was our first design. We went through a lot of designs. But then what we did is we took the design and we put together a little mini cash performer to see what it looks like performing. Same kind of thing. Certain amount of spaces. At the time, there was 15 75-foot spaces, 23, actually it was 38 truck spaces, $300, $325. And so the income was $21,250. That was the income, not much expense on this thing, right? Yeah, how hard is it to run a check card? So it performed out pretty good. So then once after a $6,000 a month mortgage, John Marshall, it was a free flow cash flow, about $11,750 a month at the time. That wasn't the $30,000. That was just an initial spreadsheet to see if this thing was viable, to see if it would cash flow. Okay, so that was sort of the level of analysis that we did. How did we fund it? We had $450 in equity that we put up, $155 including site plan development. We got a $1.1 million with John Marshall Bank, 10-year term before the rates change, 25-year AM schedule. At the beginning it was 5.5% with what was it, a half point? Wasn't bad. Rate changed after 5 years. The index was 5-year treasury plus 3%. We did have a prepayment penalty. Was it 321? Yeah, 321. And so that's how we funded it. And so that's basically what we did. But we did have FAA concerns, fence perimeter. I think I've got a spreadsheet in here. I'm going a little fast for you guys, but that's all good. I'm getting gonged by the gong show. And so I'll show you this in a second. This is the current performance, but I need to bring up something else. So then what happened was, over a period of time, Manassas Airport's changing. They're going to land the 128 passenger jets in there, right? So now what's going on is there's going to be a hell of a lot of development activity around that airport. So our property value, even though I've got a cap rate on it, from an NOI standpoint, it's going to be worth more than the cap rate because of the ancillary things that are going around. Data center kind of activity. I can combine the 3 acres with 6 acres next door. We can sell it to a data center developer. That's going at about $2.5 million an acre there, right? $7.5 million. So, right. So not only do we add value with the truck yard, but because of fortunate circumstances that we really didn't need, it totally jacked up the value. Okay. And so we're sitting on offers for that as well. Now, this is current. It's now into a truck yard. And so this is our current pro forma. This was 2024. So we're averaging, I'm not getting $30,000 a month. So we're averaging between $26,000 and $27.50. Because over a period of time, we're full up. We're always full up. And so as truckers cancel their leases or don't pay us, then because we're full up, I'm able to increase rents, $50, $25, $100. And oh, by the way, like I was telling you yesterday, right? We're on a app called NetPark. So when we run things, we go to sleep. These truckers are paying their rents through the app NetPark. They are doing leases for new spots through NetPark. NetPark goes with QuickBooks. So all the reporting coming out of NetBooks goes right to our my accountant in QuickBooks. So we're able to close the books every month, and everything is automated. It is a beautiful thing. Now, what that is, I'll give you in a second. What that's enabled us to do is now I can own an industrial piece of property, a truck yard, anywhere in the country, because I know how to run it, automate it. Now, obviously, there's things that we have to do, right? In our case, we didn't pave the lot. We just have basic gravel, right? Millings. You guys know what millings are? We use millings. You know what paving companies do when they kick up the asphalt? They create millings. Do you know what they want to do with those millings? They want to give them away. So what we did is we used millings, crushed it down, right? City of Manassas didn't really like that too well. We're okay, we got a lawyer. We'll deal with you. And so we have millings on this truck yard, a fenced-in truck yard. development wasn't that much, once we got the site plan approved. So there you go. That's what it looks like. Am I out of time? I'm out of time. All right. Huh?
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Where do you think most of your deals are coming from right now? I know it's all distressed or whatever. Is it mostly word of mouth at this point?
Okay, Van, you know this.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the top line,
It's a great property.
bankruptcy court.
Yeah.
We are very, through Ed, we are very tied into the various bankruptcy courts. So whether it's a Chapter 13, Chapter 11 filing, Chapter 7s, and they have commercial assets, well, there's two ways. The bankruptcy courts have got to go through a disposition of those assets. So a lot of times you can buy them based on bankruptcy court approval. And I'll cover here some in a second because I think you guys will want to hear this. So the banks can, the court, you can buy the asset, you need Chapter 7, 11, 13 trustee approval, or if it gets to certain things, they'll auction it off. Very few people don't know about it. Now, the next thing that I would tell you guys is that another good source to start finding these distressed assets on the commercial side is, we're in the middle, I'm not sure why we haven't undergone another FDIC crisis, but there's a lot of, you know it because you're going through it, Sandy Spring. Sandy Spring, once Silicon Valley Bank got taken back, who was number one? Sandy Spring, because they had so much bad assets in the commercial office space. Well, what you might want to do is get your community bank contacts, figure out who they are, right? Who's holding on to bad assets. That's another great way to find commercial assets. Okay, so that's, I don't want to cover it. I think I've got pictures on this guy real quick. That's what it looks like. It's performing, it's a tire center truck, a special use permit for an auto body shop. We've got both levels rented out. I think it's kicking off 10 or 11,000 bucks a month or something like that. But that's it. And so what I'll do is really quick, I'll conclude. It's a good way to build wealth and cash flow, commercial investing, as you guys know. I'm preaching to the choir. This is the way we do it. We buy distressed assets. We add value, right? I understand the present and future cash flows. So I know how to evaluate it at the very beginning, what it's worth. I know what it's going to be like in its full performance state. That's what I care about. Understand current and future zoning. When I talk about future zoning, I'm talking about comp plans. 5-year, 10-year, 12-year, whatever the comp plan is for that county and jurisdiction. Understand that, because there's a lot of agricultural properties that in the comp plan are getting changed zoning, so you don't have to go through a full-blown zoning change. It's part of the comp plan. It's going to be a lot easier, less costly. And then honestly, last but not least, understand the financing options. Be creative, right? Owner-held financing, all these different mechanisms. When you're talking about owner-held financing, you can negotiate that. It's terms, rate terms, man. And schedules, right? It just all depends on the desperation of the seller. Mr. 1031 man back here, you might want to do an installment sale. A landowner might want to hold financing because they're getting older and they need the monthly income and they want to avoid the capital gains tax all at once because they don't have a 1031 strategy. There you go. That's it. Yeah. I knew I'd cover a lot.